Spencer Davis Group, 1965. And we are back, and we go back to the phones. This is Patty in Naugatuck, Connecticut. Welcome to the EIB Network. Great to have you here.
Oh, great to speak to you, and thank you so much for taking my call, sir.
You bet. Thank you.
In response to, you had talked about what would be a way around getting out a political ad that is nothing but complimentary and get your point across. I have a thought. It's a three-part thought. There was a recent interview with Charles Krauthammer, and he had described a great respect and admiration for Romney and Bain Capital, of which he concluded in there that Romney, he doesn't have any skeletons in the closet. In fact, he doesn't have a closet. And then in the middle of the interview, you could put people, real people, who have had jobs, prosperity, due to the intervention of Romney and Bain Capital through maybe Staples and other companies that Bain Capital have gone in and restructured so that there was success. And the third conclusion, and you could have a series of people, because I am sure he has touched many lives with his wealth and prosperity, and it starts at the top and trickles down. He could be our role model. The third avenue would be ending with a conclusion of, I believe, President Clinton on CNN, and he had spoke of Romney about his, I believe the word was sterling business, past businesses, and of Bain Capital. And I think it would be a very positive ad coming forth, and it would addressing it in a very positive way, although I do think that he needs to define himself very quickly before he gets defined, because people repeating something over and over, sometimes legend becomes fact.
All right, well, how does he define himself? He's only been running for president since 2008. So how do you do that? How do you define yourself? What do you do?
I think by your record. I think by, Bain Capital was put in as part of the United States because it saves companies. It creates jobs. It creates wealth. It spreads the wealth. It actually spreads the wealth by everyday people getting up and going to work and having jobs. And the rich are the people who employ Americans and increase everyone's quality of life. And money, there are things in life that are very important, and our personal values, our principles, but money does bring quality of life. And the rich have enhanced this country through our jobs, through prosperity, through manufacturing. So you
want a Romney ad campaign that explains the rich to people, and attempts to defend the rich to people.
Through example. The lives that Bain Capital has touched, the everyday people who have got up and gone to work, who continue to have jobs because of his interventions, it prevented company from going bankrupt.
It is interesting. You think back to all of these Democrats when Obama started this attack on Bain. All these Democrats came out and said, "Don't do." They came out and defended Bain. They defended private equity. Cory Booker, Fast Eddie Rendell, Bill Clinton, as you mentioned. There were numerous Democrats came out and criticized Obama for doing. What happened to that? What happened? Apparently, they've all been taken to the woodshed. Every one of them has been silenced and shut up by the White House. And we're back now to Bain Capital equals disaster, evil, misery, cheaters, offshore accounts, all of the stereotypes that attach themselves to the filthy rich that somehow rich Democrats never seem to have attached to them. Well, all of this stuff is now attaching itself. All these Democrats who came out and told the truth have apparently been silenced and shut up.
And sir, may I ask, too, what happens? What are the results of the rich leaving this country? Where would we be without the avenues that the rich have provided this country? And wealth and prosperity, he earned it. Governor Romney earned that. And if he succeeded, he would be the person who leads by example. And if he could help the United States of America restore our economy and put us on a road that has avenues again to prosperity, I would be, I am sure with many Americans, very grateful, because we can come back to our problems, and they have to do with debt, finances. We need restructuring in our economy to bring us back to having things coming back.
Yeah, aren't these kinds of attacks that we're seeing on Bain, aren't they the kind of things that force companies offshore in the first place?
Yes, sir.
Isn't this the kind of thing that makes a company open offices in foreign countries and relocate and take their leave of the United? It isn't Obama, in effect, with his attacks on Bain, isn't he sending a signal to other businesses? If you're not with me, pal, and I mean politically, I'm coming for you next. Is this not actually making other companies look at foreign investment more favorably?
They may be looking now to see what happens, because we may be left with a country that the rich find out that it isn't so great to be here and it isn't marketable for them to be here, and there are other avenues in the world that actually welcome business. India may be a prime example. A lot of our businesses have gone to India and they're thriving in their economy over there. We need to re-examine our values. We need to re-examine how we are setting up our structures, because our Americans and our future Americans, we have many, many problems that we face, but we cannot solve the problems without having the wealth restored to this country.
Let me ask you a serious question, Patty.
Yes, sir. As
you go through this idea, your three-pronged ad idea for Romney, and I like one of them. Have some a campaign on the lives that Bain Capital has helped. People whose jobs were saved, people whose businesses grew. That's a good idea. My question to you, and I'll just ask it, how many people in this country do you think are interested in learning how to be prosperous? How many do you think want the same list of objectives that you have mentioned here as the end result of your mythical ad campaign?
Well, with all due respect, sir, I think when you give up something, you may end up giving up more than you think. My husband always said there is no free lunch. And sometimes when something is free, it ends up costing you a whole lot more. And quite honestly, I think we need to look at the whole structure and widen what we're looking at and seeing what people are getting for giving us tokens, because the tokens may end up in the end be withheld from us.
No, I'm asking.
And you lose liberty.
I know, but how many people care about that? I'm asking you how many people want to do what it takes to become prosperous? They don't have to anymore. How many people want to understand the role wealthy people play in a prosperous society? How many people want to do what it takes to become one of those people? Versus how many of them are content just to sit there and resent them and have the government take care of them to one degree or another?
Well, what happens when there's no more money? Who does the government...
Well, we're already there.
Yes, sir. But after, when things really begin to, even if they should worsen down the road, who would be first so hurt by the exact thing of not having money if the government no longer has money, or China no longer is willing to give us that X number of pennies on a dollar to give us so that we could have these programs that benefit people? And I am not saying we should not take care of the poor, the disabled. We most certainly should. We have always been a country of that. But we need to examine exactly what the structure is and how we're doing it. Because with all due respect, I'll come back to my husband's thing. This man worked and worked and worked since he was younger than a teenager until he was 65 years old and had some health problems.
Do you understand that today, put it this way, the President of the United States is out receiving standing ovations and applause when he attacks the kind of life your husband lived? The President of the United States is getting standing ovations when he tells people, your husband didn't do anything. Your husband never did jack. Everybody else made your husband what he was. Your husband didn't do anything.
A little clip from my husband.
Obama's getting standing ovations, Patty, when he denigrates people like your husband.
Just because you say it doesn't make it so. And you can say the truth, you can say the truth, you can say the truth. and I would continue to say the truth, because you may affect some. But when you continue a legend and you keep repeating the legend, the only thing left standing is the legend. And the American people deserve to be told the truth.
But the truth is hard, Patty. The truth is hard. A lot of people don't want to hear the truth. I agree. That's what we do here, is tell the truth.
You do it all the time.
We do the truth, and I'm hated and despised.
I think you're respected. And I
well, that too. There's, of course, that's too, but I'm hated. I'm looked at as a big threat.
Because you become, you stand up for principles, you stand up for values, and you're not going to give into them. You're going to stand firm on them. So there's something to be said for that. And in the end, this country was made just on that. People worked. They worked real hard, and they never complained about it. And the worst days of their lives are the days that they could no longer work, because that is what pulled you up. And it's
what defined you. It is where you took your identity. Its work is where you derived your self-worth.
My father only worked his whole life, his whole entire life. And when he retired, he worked his whole entire retired life at the church until he was ill and died of a stroke. And that's what he lived by. He was in World War II. He was under Patton. He won medals for it. And you know what? He never spoke of it. It was a deep pride within himself, and those things were very, very valuable, but they never spoke of the war. They never touted their success. But when I look back at my father, when he fell down stairs that were concrete and had all broken rims, do you know he never missed one day of work? Do you know he got up the next day and he strapped himself up and he went to work? So
the President of the United States is today getting standing ovations for denigrating, criticizing, and basically impugning everything your father and your grandfather did and stood for. And that has not happened in this country before.
Leave behind that counts. And it is what he left behind that counts, because I never forget the lessons he taught. He's a man who went to church. He's a man who prayed every day. He saw things that most people never see in their whole entire lives. That were so awful.
And he probably was opposed to gay marriage, in which case he was a creep and a jackass and a hateful bigot. That's where we are in our culture today. You described characteristics that used to be those things that everybody in this country strive for. Now they are laughed at, impugned, made fun of, marginalized by no less than the President of the United States. Patty, thanks for the call, and God bless. We'll be back after this, folks.